Fallout's obviously having a bit of a resurgence now, in the sense that the TV show has piqued people's interest in the games, and we're getting all these new players coming in. And unfortunately, they're starting with either Fallout 4 or Fallout 76. And it's kind of a shame, because they're not even getting the good Fallout experience. It kind of makes sense, because this was a TV show not based on old school Fallout. It was a TV show very much based on Bethesda's version of Fallout, which I've said, you know, a million times. I just don't consider the Bethesda games canon. It's Fallout, Fallout 2, and Fallout New Vegas. And anything Bethesda did, because obviously it goes Interplay. Fallout 2 was Black Isle, which was a studio within Interplay, and then it was Obsidian, who were licensed by Bethesda to make a quick sequel to Fallout 3, and then they basically fucking just made an infinitely superior game, which, while it was super buggy on release, the writing holds up. And put it this way, if you give me a choice of having a buggy game on release, but it's well written, or a game with dog shit writing, but it's immaculate and I can play it on day one, I'll actually take the well-written game with the bugs. Now, the funny part is, if you buy Bethesda games, you just get both. You just get a shit-written game with a ton of bugs that you can't play on day one anyway. So, yeah, excellent. Let's talk a little bit just about tone, because the first Fallout is pretty serious. I'd say the split is about 90%, you know, dark horror about making it through a nuclear apocalypse, and about 10% humor and references sprinkled in. You know, ultimately, there's quite a lot of dark themes in the first Fallout. It's very bleak in its scope. It is pretty gruesome in some areas. The Master is essentially a kind of classic horror villain in the sense, and very well written and fleshed out. It's a great game, and the writing in it is held up. Fallout 2 is more 50-50 in terms of, like, its bleak outlook and its dark humor. And there was a lot more edgy comedy kind of shoehorned into Fallout 2. And that's fine. I prefer Fallout to Fallout 2, which isn't a popular opinion, but it is an opinion that enough people hold it. But I think both of those games have still stood the test of time. If there was an option, like there was in New Vegas, to turn off the silliness in Fallout 2, it would be the superior game. But sometimes, depending on how you do quests, you just get a run of quests, and they'll be so silly, and then there'll just be some horrific, like, you know, moment, and it was, you know, that juxtaposition of goofy, dark humor, and then, like, we're making a serious point about, you know, slavery or sex work or something. It just doesn't. It's a bit of a mishmash. And then New Vegas, probably the best written of the three, and obviously one that's infinitely replayable and gives you decisions to make that aren't about, oh, here's the morally good decision and here's the morally bad decision. Like, do you want to blow up Megaton? No, what? Because a rich guy says it's obscuring his view from his wealthy building, and if you blow it up, he will give you a key to an apartment in said wealthy building. Like, what is this? Like, this is fucking shit. This is dog shit. But in New Vegas, the key difference is it's, do you want to do this? And then it shows you, well, you made this decision, and these bad things happened, but these good things happened, and that's it. And it's like, you know, probably outside of the hidden enclave mission runs in New Vegas, there really isn't a lot of black and white in the game, and that's always just more interesting, isn't it? Now, all of which is to say, none of that is in the TV series. It really doesn't compare to the first two games or New Vegas in any way, shape, or form. It's the Bethesda theme park vision for the game. And I watched the trailer. There were things that put me off. They had the gulper with the fingers in, and I was like, I don't know if I like that design. And the CGI looked a little bit ropey in the trailer. It was better in the finished show. And the ghoul, Walton Goggins, looked too handsome still. Ghouls are meant to be fucking hideous. Their skin is literally falling off. It's not just, oh, he doesn't have a nose. And I get it. I get why you have to change the design of the ghouls, even the ferals, a little bit for TV. But again, if you look at the ghouls in New Vegas, they're just fucking grotesque. Even the friendly ones, you know? So I watched the trailer, and I was immediately like, well, it's the Bethesda aesthetic. But when I sat down to watch the show while I was on my travels, I do have to say, I was pleasantly surprised, because I thought the first episode I didn't really like all that much, even though I was like, you know, I'm never going to judge a TV show on the first episode. They're generally the one where you have to flesh it out. I thought that the problems I had with episode 1 was, first of all, the premise that raiders could get into a vault by pretending to be vault dwellers, and the vault dwellers wouldn't instantly pick up on that. That just didn't ring true. It was kind of just too far-fetched. I couldn't suspend my disbelief for that degree, even though I thought they did actually nail the tone of the kind of, you know, oh, you know, gee willikers, up and at them kind of, you know, attitude of these positive vault dwellers, which is, you know, I thought that was fine. I have no issue with that. There's even a little bit of that in Fallout 2 and a little bit of that in Fallout, the original ones, you know, where it's like these, you know, the vault dwellers are fucking embarrassingly disconnected from the reality that you go out to. And that's the general consensus, you know, whenever like vault dwellers are sort of come across, they are viewed as like these naive, luxurious, decadent, wealthy assholes.
Holy shit. You're an actual vault dweller.
Because that was the original premise. That was kind of what it was. It was essentially a social commentary on the 1%, and you know, if you were wealthy enough, you get to even survive the apocalypse. There was a lot of social commentary around that. But anyway, the first episode, I was like, you really can't tell that these people are raiders. I mean, I spotted the twist kind of straight away. And I didn't like Kyle MacLachlan in this show. I don't have anything against Kyle MacLachlan as an actor, but I just find him very hit or miss. And he's just been like that all his career. You know, when he does something quirky, like Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks, it really works. And you go, yeah, that's an iconic role. When you do his take on Paul Atreides in Dune, not so much.
The Harkonnens are our enemies, yes.
And so this is a guy who's like been up and down all his career for me. I generally fall on the side of liking him, but what this show didn't need was a bunch of like cameos from fucking known actors, because it just pulls you out of the world. I thought generally the casting was really good in the main roles, but all the cameos that were happening with these celebrities that you know from other TV shows just drags you out of it.
Skedaddle.
So I kind of blundered through the first episode, and I was like, nah, okay. But then I thought episode 3, episode 4, I thought they were all really strong. Basically what happens in that is, you know, you get introduced to like the Enclave and the Doctor, and they've got a dog in there, and of course it's like a wink wink about dog meat, which, you know, by the way, spoiler, in Fallout, he isn't a really nice, healthy-looking German Shepherd. He's a fucked-up, mangy flea bag because he's a dog that somehow survived the apocalypse. And I don't understand, again, why Bethesda has been leaning into this cute doggo. And I also don't get the reason the first dog is called Dog Meat is because he looks like he's a dog who should be dead and therefore should be meat for other dogs. He's a mess. Like, if you've seen the artwork, the original fucking Dog Meat, he's like gross. He's like all scaly and scaby and borderline rabid. But anyway, so I don't get why in like Fallout 4, for example, Why is he called dog meat in that? It doesn't make sense. It's like just a member berry for no fucking reason whatsoever. And they did it in this TV series as well, where Walton Goggins calls the healthy German Shepherd that he's got off the German scientist. He goes, I don't know, dog meat. And it's like, here's the problem with all of this. Todd Howard's out there is saying the TV series is canon now, on top of everything else. So you have to accept it if you're a Fallout fan, that dog meat is just the most common dog name in this universe. And it's a silly little thing, but it ruins it. These are the things that spoil like your enjoyment for like just genuine Fallout fans, because it just doesn't make any sense. Now, I'll just throw this in here. This isn't really a review of Fallout at this stage, is it? It's just me talking about the Fallout games and comparing it to the TV series. But I will just add, when in Fallout 4 you come across the Red Rocket, building straight out of the initial vault, and you find a perfectly healthy Alsatian that just needs attention. It doesn't make any sense. He's completely out of place as a character. If that was an institute dog left there specifically to spy on you, that would be great writing. But he isn't that. It's just a real dog. Just a real cute doggo. A heckin' cute doggo. Just put into this video game for fucking Redditors. I can't deal with it. It's fucking dog shit. If it was an Institute spy, because, we know they make animals. The birds have been watching you. Sean tells you that, I think, in the end of the dialogue. They got gorillas in the Institute. But no, it's just a real, super healthy German Shepherd, glossy coat. Just been eating well the entire time in the apocalypse, even though there's no one around to feed it. Figure that out. Ridiculous. So, yeah, anyway, back to the series. So, you have the introduction of the German, was it Dr. Wilzig or whatever he's called? I liked him as a character. I liked the actor. Thought he did it well. It's a little bit on the nose for me that he was German. I know, obviously, they are trying to... They coded him as a Nazi, and we know the Enclave was that, right? So it's fine. But I also do kind of sigh and roll my eyes a little bit when it's like, okay, we've got an evil scientist, and he comes in like, oh, guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, come on. Please, like, every time we have an evil fucking scientist, does he have to be German? Like, I'm just saying, can we, like, explore... Oh, Arbend. Like, just please stop this. Like, but fair enough. And I thought it was really funny as well when he just takes the cyanide pill instead of the medicine, and dies, and she has to saw his head off. And then also the introduction of Walton Goggins as the ghoul, back when obviously he was like buried underground with a fucking tube coming up, and they dig him up and they want to check if he's feral by eating the chicken, and he kills everybody. It's a real badass intro, and straight away Goggins is the best thing about this show.
Wow, is this an Amish production of the Count of Monte Cristo, or just the weirdest circle jerk I've ever been invited to?
It's actually sad they didn't give him more on-camera time, because it's a masterclass in, like, even though the character is over the top as the ghoul, there's a lot of subtleties to the performance. Like, when he's the cowboy actor dude, when he's that version of Coop, he's different. He's got a slightly different accent, slightly different mannerisms. When he's the corporate version and he's doing all the Vault-Tec commercials, again, he's different. And it's really good to see that he puts in these, like, subtle shadings into the character. And by the time you meet him as the ghoul, you can see how the fucking wasteland and the apocalypse, and obviously you can infer, lost all his family, because he's a ghoul, he just lives forever. You can see how the wasteland's just turned him into a fucking piece of shit. And he's kind of, he's a morally ambiguous character. I thought out of all of the characters, actually, he was the only one that really had any nuance in the writing, because you start out kind of hating him, and he's like the antagonist, and then you're kind of rooting for him a little bit, and the more you learn about his character, the more you understand why he would sort of be so bitter and jaded. And obviously he's the guy who gets that the wasteland is, a horrific place to try and survive. So I thought, like, yeah, fair play, actually, Walton Goggins. I thought he fucking nailed this. I've said for a long time, there's a particular type of role he plays. Now, a lot of the time, it is a southern drawling racist, such as Shane Vendrell or the dude he played in Justified or in The Hateful Eight. But I'll just say, if you ever need someone from the deep south to be racist in a film, nobody does it better than Walton Goggins. And I'm glad actually he's getting broader roles. Yeah, Django as well. I'm great. I'm very glad to see he's getting like more and more roles because he's excellent and he carried this show and he really needed more screen time for me actually. The other thing I liked in the writing was when in the Brotherhood, when Titus just turns up and he's played by like Michael Rappaport, which again, the cameo took me out of it because Michael Rappaport is just Michael Rappaport. But that whole bit with like, you know, this big Brotherhood of Steel, you know, getting killed by a fucking bear, and him just watching him die and then taking over the armor. I thought that was all great stuff. The only problem was Maximus was just ridiculously underwritten, and his motivations as a character made no sense. None of it made any sense. What was his plan? Like, I'm still kind of like at a loss for what Maximus was even supposed to be doing, because it's like, okay, you've got the armor, you've anointed yourself a knight. My assumption was going to be he was just going to go do the mission and then turn around and go to the Brotherhood. Titus died and I took over and I've completed it. So look, I've proven it. I make me a knight now. I'm good enough for the Brotherhood of Steel. And that would have been an arc. It wouldn't have been an interesting one, but it would have at least made sense. But instead, he lets him die, takes the armor, the Brotherhood of Steel call in, and he pretends to be someone else and then destroys the armor so they can't talk to him. And then it's like he is siding with the Vault Dweller, and then he goes back and he does this, and he's it's just all over the place. He was the most disappointing character, actually, in it. I really liked the actor. The actor had like some range in his delivery, reminded me of a young Denzel Washington, very like, you know, handsome guy, perfect for a Brotherhood of Steel role. But unfortunately, the writing for him was just diabolical. I'm still like, I don't really know what he wants outside of like maybe caring about Lucy or whatever it is. Anyway, towards the end, I don't think the TV show stuck the landing at all. I think when they went to Vault 4, can anyone explain to me why it needed this double twist? So they go to Vault 4. Lucy thinks it's a vault.
We're in a vault.
But everyone in the vault is kind of a mutant of some sort. And that's because they've allowed people from the wasteland to come in. And really, they're just emulating a vault. And then the twist is, because you know, there's going to be a twist. Something's going to be wrong about it. And then the twist is they're all cultists who daub themselves in the ashes of the victims of Shady Sands, and they all want to get revenge for the destruction of Shady Sands. And you go, okay, right, fair enough. And that was meant to be the big reveal, the big shocking reveal. But then it wasn't the big shocking reveal. The big shocking reveal is that the original Vault-Tec people were running an experiment, like shock horror, and they did a double twist in Vault 4, and you just didn't need to do that. That was just like a waste of everyone's time, and it's not good writing. It wasn't, neither reveal was like particularly shocking. And I also say, I hate the way New Fallout leans into the idea that, oh, every vault has to be an experiment. That's totally a Bethesda thing. Like, it was implied in the original Fallout that the Vault 15 that gets ghoulified, it was implied in one of the logs you find in that game that, yeah, you know, they deliberately didn't have a seal put on to see what the long-term effects of radiation would be to a control group. But then it went from like that to, by the time Fallout 3 rolls around, it's like just canonic that Vault-Tec, every vault was an experimental vault. And it's like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes there, homie. That doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever that you would be like running all these dangerous fucking experiments on everyone in vaults to fucking see what happens. It's like, don't you want your civilization to survive? It's like crazy. Now, New Vegas is guilty a little bit of that too, but I think a lot of the vaults they run are just more intelligent experiments. Like Vault 11 was like kind of a clever experiment that makes some sort of sense because they were ultimately attempting to civilize somebody. The other vault in New Vegas where the plants have grown out of control, that's a genuine experiment that would benefit the wasteland. Indeed, that's part of the moral quandary that you face is, do I want this research to be given to the NCR and they can maybe bring luscious, verdant plant life back to the fucking, Mojave? Or do I not? Because it can be dangerous and get out of control. This kind of stuff is, good writing. I have no issue with that. Sure, Vault-Tec ran some experiments. I also don't understand why, canonically, we now have to accept Vault-Tec dropped the bombs.
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
That seems a wild writing choice because it was always implied in the original game that we can't really be sure, but it was probably China, right? And now in the TV series, they did this awful fucking thing where they have House, because they're determined to fuck up New Vegas. They have House appear and go, yes, well, everybody can get rich from the end of the world. That's not even House! That's not House. House, by the way, when I do my New Vegas playthrough on stream, it's House all the way, guys, because fuck NCR and fuck the Brotherhood. I'll go Legion before I go any of those motherfuckers, actually, right? And House is the only guy who ever talks about how he wanted to save humanity. In the whole game. When you kill him, as he dies, he screams, no, look what you've done. You've doomed humanity. He doesn't even say you've killed me. He says you've doomed humanity. And now, in the TV series, House is chain-smoking in a room. Oh, yes, we should probably drop the bombs and let's get these experiments going because capitalism and profit. Like, oh, don't do that. Don't fucking do that to me, homie. That's too much, dog. So I was super pissed off. That House cameo fucking killed me. I was like, oh, I nearly threw up. I was very upset with that. And then, also, right, so explain this to me, right? The wife of Walton Goggins works for Vault-Tec, is working super hard to get their family into a vault, and what she says...
one of the good vaults.
Meaning she is aware of the fact they have experimental vaults and real vaults, and she wants to go to the real vaults. But then, like, Coop takes his daughter out to do a birthday party, because he's a movie star reduced to doing birthday parties to make extra money on the side, and the bombs drop, and it's like, well, if Vault-Tec did it, did she not get that memo?
But if billions of people are going to lose their lives, I will do whatever it takes to make sure the people I love, that is you and that is Janie, aren't among them.
No, 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 no.
So I hate this whole thing about, oh, it was Vault-Tec the whole time, which, again, this is a Bethesda thing. Bethesda have been pushing this because they don't understand Fallout. And the TV series now, because Todd Howard was involved, it unfortunately is borrowing some of the worst writing aspects from Bethesda. What the fuck is up with Shady Sands? What's gone on there? There was a whole debate, right? There's this thing here where they learn about the history of NCR. Basically, Maximus is from Shady Sands, and he ends up joining the Brotherhood because we know Shady Sands has been destroyed. And in the TV series, they write it that actually it was Lucy's dad, Kyle MacLachlan, who, by the way, when he flies off in the power armor at the end, dog shit. Please stop. But he somehow is responsible for the bombing of Shady Sands. But what they did is, you can see here, the fall of Shady Sands happens in 2277, and then it just draws an arrow to a mushroom cloud. And obviously, this upset everybody because, let me get this right, New Vegas is 2281. And in it, when you play, no one mentions that Shady Sands has been fucking destroyed or blown up. And it's like, Shady Sands is a throwback to the original game. It's the first settlement you will actually come across if you follow the game linearly as the experience is planned out for you. So typically on your first playthrough, you leave your vault, you kill a bunch of rats in the cave, and you always kill the rats for the XP. Don't turn down that free XP. It takes forever because you dog shit and you fucking trying to stab rats in a cave. Do it. Every single time, you get 25 XP per rat. It's worth it. And then you will walk towards the vault you've been told to go to, and you will go to Shady Sands. And Shady Sands is this super important settlement, right? It's very important historically. It's essentially the seat of one of the seats of power for the NCR. And so they would probably factor into New Vegas. Someone would mention it somewhere if it had been destroyed. And so there was this whole debate about it, going, you know, and I think this was stupid, but they were going, oh, Todd Howard hates fucking New Vegas because they didn't make the game. And Todd Howard, by the way, has had to do all these interviews saying, no, we love New Vegas. We love the fact someone who wasn't Bethesda wrote a fucking better game. We love it. We love it. And so anyway, what they came up with in the end was that the fall happened in 2277, but the fall wasn't them being nuked. And we don't know what the fall is, but it did fall. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking thin. And I know Bethesda, and I know Todd Howard, and if I was to guess, I would say they just forgot because they didn't make the game. What's more likely, that actually there's some super insane storyline coming, or they just forgot their own timeline? It's Bethesda. Quality control, not really their strong suit. So no, I'm gonna go. I think they just forgot, and then they were like, shit, and they've had to fucking retcon it again. The series ends in a way that I am very upset about. I don't really care if the timeline gets a bit fuzzy. I'll explain why in a moment. But Kyle MacLachlan, the very last shot is he's fucked off in the power armor. He's flown away because he knows how to use power armor because he's a bad guy, and he flies out. And he gets to New Vegas, and you see, you know, what would be the iconic walk to the strip that you do in New Vegas, where you just see the glowing lights on the horizon, and it's desolate and dead. And so they're gonna write it out, guys. They're gonna write New Vegas out. It's just dust everywhere. It's got the iconic spire, but it's gone. Everything that happened in New Vegas is gonna be gone. And that's when I'll be really fucking done with them, because I don't know what the canon ending for like New Vegas would be. It's probably the NCR ending, if we're being honest. It's the one with the most quests. It's the one that's the most written, but never for me. Never for me. It would be anything but that. NCR are just fucking the worst. I hate it. And the reason I hate the NCR and feel so strongly about the NCR, and I think people don't understand the NCR whenever they talk about Fallout, is if you played New Vegas, you realize that there is a mirror between the Legion and the NCR, in the sense that a lot of the quests, they're doing the same things. They're killing innocent people. They're making bad decisions that negatively impact on the lives of people. But Caesar, or Kaiser, is honest about it and saying, look, we're doing this because you got to separate the fucking wheat from the chaff if you want a strong society. Only a strong, homogenous society can survive in the wasteland. The NCR are just deluding themselves into a good people and rebuilding civilization, and, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. So, come on. It's garbage. The NCR is not, they're not the good guys. And inevitably, as House points out, when he says, if you want to see the fate of democracies, look out the window. The NCR are trying to rebuild all the same shit that fucked up in the first place. So fuck NCR and fuck Brotherhood of Steel forever. Anyway, I don't know what the canon ending is going to be, but I imagine it's going to be NCR in the TV series, and that fucking sucks. They've obviously set up House being in some way, so you're probably going to get Robo House in the TV series, maybe in like a desolate New Vegas, but it isn't going to be the New Vegas that we all fucking love. So yeah, for me, the ending gives me great concerns about season 2, which is inevitable now. And overall, I just thought it felt very much like a Bethesda Fallout game, in the sense that there were parts I really liked and really enjoyed, but by the time I got to the end, all I could think was, what could have been if there'd just been a little bit more care and attention and understanding of the lore. And that is ultimately the Bethesda experience in a nutshell. So, you know, where would I put the Fallout TV series? Am I ever going to rewatch it? I'm probably never going to rewatch it. I thought Goggins was great in it. Ella Purnell was great in it. All the leads were great, did a solid job with what they were given. There were some nice touches. Episodes 2, 3, and 4 are the best episodes. It's a run where I really thought I was going to get to the end of this series and be like super pleasantly surprised, but ultimately it just started to fall off. Some of the writing was kind of sloppy and didn't make sense. They padded out the whole Vault 4 thing. Oh, great cameo from Matt Berry as a Mr. Handy. That was inspired casting. I fuck with that totally, actually.
I'm simply going to harvest your organs.
I enjoyed that. But again, unfortunately, it's more in line with the silliness of Bethesda Fallout, which is if you played Fallout 4, there's a ton of things like Mr. Handies are all going fucking wackadoo because they've been like walking around. You know, there's that bit where you go to like the shopping area, the food area, and every time they offer you food, they try and kill you in a way that's relevant to the food that they're serving. But I thought I'm a fan of Matt Berry in general, and it was just great to sort of hear his voice as a Mr. Handy. Thought that was actually pretty inspired. So again, nice touches, but for me overall, the only thing it really made me do is it made me want to play the games again, and so I did. And when I say the games, I mean all of the games not made by Bethesda.